All right. I thought the first half of tonight's game we came out with the right intentions and level of intensity that we needed to have. I thought the second half, we had too many dips, especially at the end of the game. We thought we had some too many dips, and it's just certain things that we've been trying to work on as far as recovering from mistakes, recovering, and getting refocused. So we'll continue to work on those things, but everything else is there as far as what we need to do to get accomplished. It's a lot of ways you can look at things, and in particular, as a coach and me, watching these guys and spending time with my coaches and things like that, spending time and working on things that we're trying to do. Having the ingredients is the main thing to be, a championship team. And the one thing I'll say is, with this group back here is, we're trying to compete for championships. And so our level and our focus is probably a little bit different than most. And so as we go down the line and continue to work on these things, I'm excited to see what this group, can put together and what we can put together. So the ingredients are there. We just got to continue to get better and keep working on, recovering, refocusing, and playing more consistent, with a more consistent intensity level. And we'll continue to do that. The one thing I like about this team, I love about this team, is that they are fighters. They are grinders. Through everything of everyone else's narrative, it's a lot of things that I think people are not appreciating about this team. The way they fight, the way they come together, how connected they are. That's us. That's how we think. That's what we're focusing on. That's what we're excited about, because there's so much more room for growth. And this is just a part of the journey, and we can continue to get better. And we are getting better in certain areas, but our narrative is not what everyone else's narrative is. You can look at things the way you want to look at things. And what I look at is a group that has we have the ingredients, we're still working, we're still improving, I'm just excited for the future.
Red, after holding them to 23 points in the first half, they got 39 in the second. Is that the kind of, the effort that you're trying to get these guys to give all the time?
Yeah, I thought the first half, we, even then, I think we gave up some points a little early, and then we settled down, and then, defensively we kind of refocused. I thought the second half, the levels were, the dips were not where they needed to be. Talked to them about recovering from those, and we just didn't recover the way we needed to recover when we had those dips, and then especially late. I just think we didn't close the game out on that end the way we needed to.
Coach, you mentioned these dips. This isn't the first time you've come in here and talked about the team kind of having some dips. How concerning do you find that with kind of a couple more games before ACC play coming up?
Well, the dips are for us. You got to understand what I'm asking my guys to do and what we're doing. We're asking guys to gas out, play extremely hard. You're going to have some dips, right? But I keep pushing, and they keep responding to the challenges of making it, more consistent, not having those dips, right? So again, what we're trying to do is very, very hard. What I'm asking them to do is very, very hard, all right? But we got the ingredients, and we have the people that can do it. You guys have seen it. Everyone has seen it. It's just a matter of us continually, getting more consistent with it.
Twofold here, Red. 11 games into the season, how would you describe your offense to someone onlooking, and have you seen growth in your offense?
Oh, yeah. seen a lot of growth. You know, there's nothing wrong with our offense, right? We shoot, 46, 47% from the 2-point, right? From the 3, we're probably around 31, 32, maybe a little bit better, right? We have a great balance offensively, all right? The one thing, the place that we have had some issues and struggles with has been the free throw line, right? That's improving, right? That's improving. But we're getting the shots that we want. We're putting pressure on the rim. We get to the free throw line about 22 times a game because we got guys that can put pressure on the rim. We left some points out there because of our free throw shooting. If we didn't leave those points out there, do you know what we'd be doing? We'd be averaging almost 80 points. That's what we'd be doing.
The turnovers concern you at all?
I'm finishing the first question. That's what we'd be doing. And I told you guys that we would get better shooting free throws. Right, Brett?
Right. Tonight you were better,
Yeah. Right? So, there's nothing wrong with our offense. And by the way, we played against 4 of the top 10 defenses in the country. And we're able to score enough to keep us right there. All right, so let's stop that. There's nothing wrong with our offense.
I'm saying, are you concerned over this last stretch of games where you just played a St. Joe's, a Hofstra, and a Mercyhurst, turned the basketball over 16 times tonight? Like, what flipped against playing so well against the Kansas and a Houston, and then, kind of the opposite with those teams?
Got to take care of the basketball. All right, we got to do a better job taking care of the basketball.
Coach, Leo Schaefer with Mercyhurst. William Kyle III, he picked up his 3rd double-double of the season today, and he's currently 9th among ACC leaders in terms of rebounds. He has 90 so far in the year. What's his impact been like so far for this basketball team, especially with losses such as Eddie Lampkin and Donnie Freeman due to injury?
I think Will Kyle is I said it before, he's a unique talent defensively. He really impacts the game. For us, he's key to, how we try to be aggressive and get after people. You need someone back there that can kind of, guard the low post, be able to protect the rim and rebound, and then offensively, he puts a lot of pressure on the rim and, he's just relentless. But he's a unique talent. He's someone that, in my short time as being on the coaching sidelines with our program is that, he's someone that we kind of hadn't seen in a while. He shot blocks, he rebounds. He does everything. He's a director out there, but he's a big key to what we do. And on both sides of the ball. At first, initially, I thought it was just going to be on one side of the ball, but he's definitely surpassed, the things that, the impact that we thought he would have on the offensive side of it too.
Adrian, what did you see out of JJ and his aggressiveness tonight, and how do you feel like that set a tone for your offense?
I thought JJ the last couple of games has really come out being aggressive and setting the tone. He's worked so hard to kind of get himself back into the form that we know he has. But what I love about JJ is he's challenging himself on the defensive side of the basketball. And he's playmaking, not only scoring. I think he's these last couple of games he's played just about as good as any guard. In the country, the last couple of games just of, being able to score, be efficient, get people involved and defend on the other end. He's grown tremendously on that side of the basketball, and we need that. And getting to the glass, you start to see him getting to the glass a little bit more. So again, I'm just, he's starting to round into shape of what we need JJ to be. So I'm excited about that.
Adrian, so we saw a little dying today. You came out to warm up, and I'm curious about, has he practiced? What kind of practice have you been able to do? And when do you have a little bit more of an idea of
I don't have an idea about his time frame to playing, but he is participating in practice. Slowly and surely, we kind of working him back in. He has some conditioning to catch up with and things like that. So, but we do expect him back, fairly soon. I know it sounds like a broken record. I really just don't know.
So he's not doing any 5-on-5 or anything like that? He's just doing
Not yet.
drills?
Not yet. Not yet.
Building off that, what is Donnie dealing with? Is it like a toe, foot? Like what's kind of going on?
Lower body injury.
On that topic of Donnie, Coach, Sadiq White has just stepped up. These last couple of games, he was a rebound shy of a double-double today. Had 6 offensive boards. I mean, what have you seen out of him in that absence?
I think, obviously, Sadiq is a big time, player. I know people look at his athleticism, but, he's a guy that can, he has a high motor. He can finish well in the paint. He can, make passes. Defensively, obviously, he's very, very good at that. At that end, I thought, I challenged him the last couple of games that he needed to get to the offensive glass, and he has responded. But I think he stepped in and played about as well as any freshman stepping in the country. To be honest with you, he's been solid for us. He continues to get better. Our freshmen are really getting better as we move along. Him, Cayenne, Luke is, he's had a really good week. That's why he got in there early. So again, I'm excited about, not only that freshman group, but just the team.
Brett, on those free throws, have you changed routines? Have you consulted with anybody? Or, how do you handle that when you're struggling? Better tonight, but when you're struggling. Yeah.
You just keep shooting. Obviously, we work on it, and just continue to keep working. It's all work. Again, I'm not concerned about it just because I know the work that these guys put in, and I've been around this a while. And when you look at, a lot has to do with technique and form and things like that, then you can kind of get concerned. But our guys work so hard. Again, that's why I don't really worry about that free throw continually being an issue for us. And that's going to continually help us. Just the way we play, that will help us continually get better in that area. But no, we work. These guys work. This program is about work, and we work in silence. That's what I love about this group. We put our heads down, we roll our sleeves up every day, from the head coach, to all the coaches, to the players, to our support staff every day. So when I sit up here and talk to you guys, I'm confident in what we have and what we're doing, I'm just, like I said, I'm excited.
Coach, you talked about JJ's defensive improvements. Is that like a conversation you had with him entering the offseason, or how have you just seen that come about?
That's a conversation that we have for all, when we put this team together. Not only JJ, but all of our guys. That's what we wanted to improve on. That's an area that I thought we really needed to improve on, and I wanted to improve on. So when your offense isn't going well, you still give yourself a chance to win games, and I think that's what we've done. When our offense hasn't been well, whatever. But defense is something that we wanted to make a focus on, and me and JJ sat down and talked about it, and he was all in, and he's made tremendous strides. And I think people are starting to see that side of him. We know JJ to be that offensive juggernaut, but he's really put the time and effort in, and I'm just excited to see him continually grow, right? And he's still not there yet, and he knows that. We keep pushing and challenging him. In particular, him and Donnie, I thought they made some really big growths, and even Nathan George, the effort and the work that these guys put in on that end is has been tremendous, and we still got work to do, and that's what we talk about, being able to recover from a mistake, right? They're going hard, and the ball goes in, they got to keep going, that happens, we just gotta recover better, and I think that's the biggest thing, us being able to focus on recovering better when things don't, things don't go right. This is a, long season, up and down season, bumps, bruises, all that. We're equipping ourselves for the ride. We're sitting in, we're putting our seatbelt on, and we're going. So, and we're going to do it together. So, that's what I've seen.
Right, on that offense, you mentioned the confidence you have in it. With Nathan George running it, now that he's kind of 11 games in, what's the difference between what you're asking him to do versus maybe what he did at Georgia Tech, and how he's acclimated to that?
And I think, Nate, I said this the other day, we didn't bring Nate in to average 18 or 20 points. That's not what we brought him in here to do. We brought him in here to make players better, get people the ball in certain areas, and then be able to have an offensive threat, be able to score. And I think he's done that. Has it been, easy? No. I think when you look around the world, when you go to these different teams, it takes a little bit of time. But he's been good, as far as what we need him to do. Maybe statistically he's had some games that didn't, jump off the page. But, reality is we have guys that can, guys like J.J. Stone that can score the ball at a high level. And we brought him in to help him, to put him aside and make him, take the load off of him. Today I thought, Nate, got to the free throw line and knocked some down, 12 points, 4 assists, I thought that was good, that's a good, but, again, we didn't bring him in to score 18 to 20 points. We brought him in here to get, run our offense, get guys the ball, and, make his plays when he needs to make his plays.
Coach Akir had his first field goal attempt of the season. It took 89 minutes without a field goal attempt. What does it say that you can kind of keep trusting him out there, even though he's not a guy that is going to go out there and really give you any sort of scoring offensively? And for him to give you that tonight, what does that mean?
How do you know that?
I can see the analytics.
No, Ski is, he's a guy that's very active, and he stays around the rim. And the things that we talked about for him was, being able to, he gets his hands on balls and he gets rebounds and things like that. So, him being able to, cash those in. A lot of times, I thought he had some times from this year earlier where he was around the rim and he could have finished. And, so we just been talking about that because he works so hard. He's very active. So when he gets his hands on some rebounds, offensive rebounds sometimes, and he has the opportunity to put it back in, I've been really coaching him hard on that. Like he has to put it back in, and today he did. So that was his first field goal for the season. So I think everyone was pretty excited, and he knocked down 2 free throws. That was big.
Thanks, Coach.
Thank you.
Thank you.